think that we still have a lot more work to do when it comes to attracting more women to senior leadership roles. The role models tend to be people who have already made it, and they look so sophisticated, not me, by the way, but they look so sophisticated, they look so accomplished, they look so confident.
I think that it starts with having more role models, not just on a stage, not just standing far away that women can look at as role models, but sitting with early stage or women who are thinking about entrepreneurship. It's difficult to, when you don't have a path in front of you and you feel like you're doing it completely alone, it almost feels like nobody's done it before you.
We've all had those difficult moments. We've all had to struggle. We've all had to fight. We've all been depressed. We've all had those little inner voices who've told us that we'll never succeed. And yet, it is possible.
Had I had a female to look up to that I could have said in, like for instance, in that advisor meeting, if I could have said, wow, this happened to me, what should I have done differently? Rather than me have to take 6 months to think through it and realize, oh, okay, that's the way I should have handled that. I could have had someone say, oh, well, you know, have you thought about doing it this way?
It's important to decide on the language one uses. I think it's a lot of stereotypes about women and their age and what they're prepared to accomplish. But there's actually been some surveys where they've put hidden microphones into venture capital rooms in Northern Europe and listened to the language that they use to describe different sexes of entrepreneurs. And the way they describe male entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs are entirely different. And that's the biggest thing in over 30 years of working that I've started to really understand. Because I'm an engineer, we think about numbers and facts. We often don't think about language. And what's important is to start to really have a conscious sense of language and how we're learning it and how we're doing it.
Talk about us more. Over the last plus decade, I have seen a lot of the same stories told over and over again. And there are so many. We're so rich with stories. We just have to keep talking about it. We have to take the platforms. We've got to use the channels available to us to tell the stories of women in this industry and what we're up to and the influence and impacts that we've had. And we need to share those resources amongst all of us.
I've learned to ask questions rather than point fingers. So as an example, I was invited to attend an event and like the panel, the speakers were all men. So I asked, did I see this right? Like, is it all men? And then I championed a couple of other women, suggested other women as speakers. And I got this, you know, kind of typical response of, oh, you know, we tried, we asked, you know, everyone was too busy. And then they asked me to speak, which is kind of a dangerous thing. And I said yes in the end, because I think I'd be doing a disservice to the space if I didn't show up. But I champion other people. I'll ask questions to try to encourage people to develop their own awareness of whether they have enough of diversity on their team or on their panel or whatever. Rather than point fingers and say, like, you have an all-male panel. It's much better to have the other people develop that awareness, because then they'll initiate, well, hopefully, they'll initiate the change themselves.